Welcome to our Google Sheets Techie Tea Party. This has been recorded at a slightly different time to the last one simply due to some technical difficulties that we experienced with the last recording, and hopefully this will be useful to you. So in this session, we're going to cover Google Sheets. We're going to talk through some of the features within Google Sheets, focusing on that Explorer tool that we have used in Docs and Slides previously, and just general Google Sheets tips and tricks. Certainly, if you're not someone who uses spreadsheets too often, like myself, this will hopefully give you a few beginners tips and tricks for how you can actually use them to look at data and also just understand what's in front of you. So I'm just going to get started. So right now on my screen, you'll see my welcome slides. Just a reminder, if you have not joined the Google Classrooms, make sure you have joined the correct one for your local authority. The codes are different as you can only join a Google Classroom hosted within your own authority. Give you a little bit of time to get those. So I'm going to come into the Google Classroom where we will find our instructions for today's session. These are all quite straightforward, nothing too complicated, and some of them we're not actually going to spend too much time on either. You will notice at the bottom that we have got an overall student data. Now, I know this has made a few of you panic that I've shared this with you. Don't worry, these are all made up children. These are not real people, all made up as a pretend spreadsheet. Now, what I will say is we're not going to use this type of spreadsheet when we're using data in Google Sheets ourselves, as we don't store sensitive data on G Suite. This is all kept within CMIS. So there's no reason for you to have a list of the student postcodes, for example, on a Google Sheet. That's what I have on here, but this, as I've said, is a pretend sheet, so we don't need to worry too much about it. So just to recap, the Google Sheet we're primarily going to use for analysing stuff that we get back from a Google form as we do surveys or quizzes, and certainly not to collect data on allergies, on medical needs, or any other sensitive data. That is always stored in CMIS. That's the safe, secure environment for both Mid Lothian and East Lothian data. So I'm going to start off with, not on this spreadsheet, first thing I'll show you, and I'm just going to go to sheet.new, our usual shortcut to create a new Google Sheet. As always, we can create new sheets, docs, slides, forms within Google Drive, or by going to that 9-tile menu, also known as the waffle menu, when we're at google.com or in any of the other Google Tools home screens to create a new sheet. But we're not going to do that today. We're going to go to sheet.new, as that is the fastest way, in my opinion, to get here. So just a quick overview of what Google Sheets is. I know that I'm someone who gets the fear over spreadsheets. There's so much in them that can be confusing, complicated, a bit worrying that you might not get it right. Let's not worry too much. Basically what we have is a huge table that will go on with cells. We have rows and columns. So the first thing I like to do, and I like to show people, is this little Easter egg within Google Sheets. And that is if we type in the letters of pride along the first 5 columns, and then we press enter, we get a lovely rainbow spreadsheet. So instantly, it's a nicer environment to be in. It's not this big scary table anymore. So we've got that there. I can then hide rows. So what I would do always, if I do use this Easter egg in my Google Sheet, is I right click on the row that I want to hide. So I click on it first, then I right click, and then I can choose to hide. You'll also notice that there are options to insert above and below. That's where we can insert other rows. We can always delete the row. If we delete this one, the rainbow won't go away, unfortunately. But by hiding it, this will stay. And then you'll notice if I just zoom in here, it'll zoom in for me. It's not going to zoom in. It starts in number 2 rather than on row 1. Along the top, you'll see our menu. Now, this is the same kind of menu as you get in docs or slides. However, now we've got options. So we can change the format of a cell. So if you want it to be in money, I've used spreadsheets in the past and Google Sheets for budgeting with students at second level. So they've been given a shopping list or a shopping budget to shop for their family of 4 or family of 5, plan a holiday. Any of these things are fantastic uses of spreadsheets to get students more used to the environment as well. You could have it that it's a currency, percentage, decimal point, and you can also look at more number formats. The date format does sometimes jump between the American date format with the month, then the day first. So sometimes you do need to go into the more formats to change that. As we come along, you'll also see we've got our font styles, size, and our usual font symbols here. You won't have underline, we've got strike through, and that's more for when it comes to using data and number. You can change the fill. So if I don't have this as a rainbow, let me just unhide the row and delete what's in that. If I don't have it as a rainbow, I can use this fill color to change this. Another use of Google Sheets is you can do some art within Google Sheets. So you could have students creating patterns, and that's more for your younger learners, just to get used to using some of these tools in the spreadsheets. We have our alignment tools as well, text direction, and then we can also add links, have charts inserted, filters, and so on. They're the basics of Google Sheets there. Next thing I'm going to do, and as always, just to recap, if we type in the name here, that will be the name that appears in our Google Drive. And as always, we have our folder icon that shows where this document is stored. We can share as well. You will notice each time we go into a different document that the share is a different color, and that goes in line with the color of the icon in the G Suite tool. So for example, Google Sheets, this green icon, so we have the green share button, Docs is blue, Slides is yellow. I'm just going to close this sheet now, as this isn't the one that I'm going to be using for the activities today. So now I've got my copy of my overall student data. For you, this will have your name at the top if you're accessing it from the Techie Tea Party slides. This data here, I can organize, I can put it in alphabetical order. I can also fix some of the rows as well so they don't move. That's often one of the problems that you'll encounter when you use spreadsheets, is that when we scroll, you've suddenly lost the title, so you're not sure what this number is for. But the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to sort it so that I freeze this row. So by going, I tend to highlight the row, and then you can go View, Freeze, and you can choose whether it's the row or the column. Certainly, if you've got a large amount of data and you have a name at the left-hand side, you can always freeze the column. I do this if I'm looking through all the education applications used and reviewing them. I have a large spreadsheet for that. But I can freeze that one row. And now, as I scroll through, you'll notice that the row titles have stayed in place, so they're not going to move anymore. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to sort this, and I'm going to put it in alphabetical order from the house. So I'm going to hover over the column, that I want to sort the sheet by, and you'll see this little drop-down menu has appeared here. So if I click on this drop-down menu, I can then sort the sheet A to Z. Now what you'll notice, because I had frozen that top row, the titles have stayed in place, but the rest hasn't. If I had not frozen that row, the titles would have gone as well. So they would have also been sorted. So you'd have to scroll to find them. That's what I did by accident the other day. So now I've got that sorted by the house. I'm now going to chop this. So you'll see I've got the forename and the surname, and it's all together. Now it may be at some point you want to sort the sheet by the surname, and you can't do that very easily when they're combined together in this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to highlight the column. I'm going to go to Data, and then I am going to split the text to columns. From here, it will have this little pop-up. Now, it's quite difficult to see. It has the separator. It will detect automatically, or if I click on that option, I can choose the space. If I choose the space, that will separate it where there is a space. Now you'll notice there's obviously some extra spaces as it gives me this blank column. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to click, right click, and delete that column. So that's gone away now. Now, if I want to, I can sort the spreadsheet by the surname. So I can sort this spreadsheet by A to Z of the surname. So you'll see that has sorted that for me, all in alphabetical order by the student surname, or I can come back and I can sort by the house, just depending on how you want to use it. Just to recap that you likely aren't going to have all of the information I've got in this spreadsheet. You will also notice that it has somehow got rid of the postcodes, but we don't need to worry too much about that. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask my spreadsheet some questions. So in your copy of this, you're going to have some example questions to ask your spreadsheet. So what we're going to do is we're going to use the Explore tool first of all. This is the first tool I like to show people in spreadsheets, simply for the fact that it makes life a bit easier. You don't need to remember loads of formula. You don't need to know what the formula is to count if someone is in a specific house. Explore does it for us. So what I'm going to do, I just need to peek past my screen because my laptop screen is blocking the Explore tool behind me. So the Explore tool is in that bottom right-hand corner, and that's where you will always find it. If it's in slides or in docs, it's that bottom right-hand corner, and the symbol is the same. So now I can go and I can ask about the data. You'll see that it's got some options already there that I can use. So I might look at the average of conduct points for each house. If I do that, let's see what happens. So you'll notice it's highlighted 2 columns. If I hover over this, it will show me what columns. Now underneath here, it's given me a table. I did very little, so I just clicked an option. And it's given me the average conduct points for each of the houses, Acorn, Chestnut, Fern and Oak. Giving me all of that there without me having to know this any formula or knowing how to put in a pivot table. So you see here, it gives me that option to put in the pivot table. If I click on that, I can put it into the existing sheet. So that's the same sheet that I'm on right now, or I can put it into a new one. So I'm going to create that there. You'll see it appears along the bottom as a pivot table. Now, I didn't have to do anything there. I didn't have to go and do lots of different difficult tasks. Did it very quickly for me. Now I'm going to go and click on the Explorer tool, and I'm going to try some of the questions that you will also have listed. Now, mine have disappeared. I think they've gone further down into the spreadsheet after I sorted it all. So we won't worry too much about that, but I'm going to click on the Explorer tool. And now I'm going to ask the questions about the data. I'm going to look for, and again, clicked on that and it's giving me all these options, but I'm going to say, let's see, total average achievement points for year 8, and you'll have the same text to copy in your spreadsheet with more than 100 behavior points. One thing that's worth noting is you'll notice that the titles or the question that I have asked includes those of the titles. So it includes the title text. If you're asking for behavior points or house points, now you'll notice there's no title for house points. So it needs to match what is in the actual piece of information. So if you start asking random questions that don't match any of the text, it won't work. It's very clever, but it's not clever enough to know exactly what you mean if you're not using the same types of information that's already on the spreadsheet. So use words that will match the headings, match your primary or secondary year group. So you might say S1, S4, and I'm going to click enter, and then it's going to do this for me. Again, I didn't have to know a formula. I just used plain English to ask this a question. Now you'll see as I hover over the question, it highlights the columns it got the information from. So it's highlighted the behavior points, achievement points, and the year group. I can then see the formula. Now this is where we can pretend to know our stuff when it comes to formula in Google Sheets. If I click on see formula, you will see it averaged it, filtered it, did all of this. And I know for myself, I would struggle with that. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to scroll down to the bottom here, and I'm just going to show you dragging this in. So I can click and drag this information, this formula, into my spreadsheet, and then it will stay there. So I can have that information. It will pop that there, and then I could put in some text of the average achievement points for year 8 with more than 100 behaviour points. So that's there. Now you'll notice we couldn't see all that text. At the top here, we can see it all, but we don't see it all in the cell. Now I can go into the format and I can look at text wrapping, and this will allow us to make sure that all of the text appears in that cell. So if I select text wrapping, we've gone format, text wrapping, then wrap, you'll see that all of that text will appear. We resize the column. This will also resize so that it's not quite as dense and will actually be a bit easier for us to read. At this point, try a few of the other questions. Try asking your own questions of the spreadsheet as well. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to say, how many have a late percentage more than 5? And there we go. So it's got late percent more than 5. You'll notice it struggled with the percentage word, but because I put late, it picked up that it was this row. So you'll see it's got a strike through there. If I change that to late percent and hit enter, it will highlight. So it much prefers when you have the same information in both your question as what is available in your spreadsheet. Okay, so give those a try. Try a few other things. If I just come out of this part of the Explore tool, just to take you back to the Explore tool menu, you'll see that we can rate, and this is where Google is learning from how we use the thing. So we can say, were these interesting? Yes, they were. That just gives them some quick feedback to say that it was in the right track for the data that you've got in front of you. You'll obviously see the pivot table suggestions, and there's also formatting. So this is where we can do some quick color formatting of our table, and you'll see it only applies it to the areas where there is the key bits of information. And you'll see it's also got the colors here. We can, oh, not wanting to do that. There we go. And as we go down, we can also put in charts. Now you'll notice along the bottom, you've got another sheet that is for assessment. So if we click on that and open it, this is where we can put in a chart that's a bit better. So if I put in insert chart, obviously there's no data. So now what I can do, like I'll just delete this very quickly. I select data this time. I'll highlight what I need. So to do that, I just clicked and dragged to highlight the area that I wanted to use. And I can insert a chart. It's giving me quite a nice one there. That's not the kind of chart that I want to see though. So I'm going to choose a different kind of chart. I'm going to go for a column, and then we can see how this looks. Play about with those. I'm not going to spend too long making sure it's very specific. But if you try selecting different amounts of the data, so you might only want to select first couple of things, you can then go into insert chart from here, and it will make it a bit easier for you to read. So play about with that, have a go. Certainly if you've got your own spreadsheets linked to a Google form, why not take all of these tools and try that in your Google form? So if you've got students doing a quiz, you could ask the question, how many students got question 1 wrong? That would mean that when you create your questions, though, so if I create a quiz by going to form.new, you will be able to recap quiz video that will be available on the Google Classrooms or on the SEEK Digital YouTube channel. When we go to settings, make the form a quiz. And then what you would need to do is make sure you use that same English that you're going to ask the spreadsheet and have question 1, for example, so that when you open up your spreadsheet to analyze that data a bit more, you can ask, how many students got question 1 wrong, and then you'll be able to get that. Or how many students got 1 point for question 1, for example, just with the way quizzes work. So really the next steps for you is to try and use some of these tools within your Google Sheet. Make it real for yourself. Try and use some of the tools on a spreadsheet you've already got that exists. Do some data collection, have your students do some data collection as well, and get them to analyse the data that they've managed to collect from a Google form. They could have the form as a survey simply by doing form.new just to get some information. Certainly right now it could be a great home learning activity, and then you can also have them try that Explorer tool as well. Great way to get started with spreadsheets, begin to understand spreadsheets, and then from there you can start to build on your understanding and your skills as you discover the types of formula that it's asking. The final thing that I did have in the task is to use the equal sum and the average formula to calculate the average behaviour points or achievement points. So to do that, if I just close the Explorer tool for now, I've just come back to that student data sheet. As soon as you hit equals, Google Sheets will start to suggest what you want to use, and you'll notice that it's coming up with both the average and the sum. So that's making life, again, much easier. I don't have to highlight the text. I don't have to count what the first cell was. It's realizing that I want to do either the average or the sum of this. So I'm going to do the average behavior points. You'll see it puts that formula in here at the top. Along here as well, we've got the formula bar, and it's also available in that bar for us to see. Here's my average. If I do equals in this one for conduct points, this time I'm going to choose sum. So the sum adds. So if you're looking for the total of something, you will need to use the sum formula to be able to get that. And if I click enter, you'll see it gives me the total. So the sum gives us the total, average is a bit more self-explanatory, and averages everything out. If you've got any questions, as ever, contact me in the Google Classroom or ping me a little email, and make sure you catch up with other videos that have already been recorded as well. Thank you.